Alright, we're going to take this barrel off and put it back on. So what we want to do first is when we put it back on, we're going to need access. We're going to need to have our solenoid cover off. So to get our solenoid cover off, we got to take this stock off, this particular stock, so that can pop up and slide back. This is preventing that from sliding back. So I think this stock is on here really good. Yep. Man, forgot to eat my Wheaties. Okay, I've got it slid back far enough. And for this part, I'm going to just go ahead and take the magazine out, but we're going to put it back in a sec. I want to loosen this up. I'm just going to go ahead and take this off. We're going to go over different barrel types. With these Jaws Max GMC barrels, your barrel nut is what holds the two halves of the gun together, you see? And then there's our bushing. Now, some of them, you know, like let's take the stock barrel for example. You know, this goes in here that far, and then your muzzle screws on, and the muzzle presses against here where the bushing presses, and that's what holds the two halves of the gun together. Now, some barrels, they have it's like a collar here. They'll have threads on the barrel. The barrel will be longer. They come in like 400 millimeters and up, you know, up to 700 millimeters. Well, they don't tighten with an end nut like this. They have a collar that tightens right here. So those are a little bit trickier to put back on. In particular, if you have it off and that collar got screwed down back this way, you're never going to find the threads in your barrel nut, because if your collar's threaded all the way down there, you're not going to reach them. So for those, you have to thread the collar all the way towards the muzzle before you even start fishing around there trying to find the threads in the nut. So to actually unscrew the barrel, we're going to put our magazine back in it, and I'll show you why later. You don't want them, you know, reefed on there real tight, because I have seen where this part has been reefed on too hard, and this will be broken on the inside. So just, you know, within reason. Now, our nut is being held by the valve body, because the nut has a hook on one side and a little arm on the other side, a little ear on the other side, and that valve body goes up in the middle of them, and it keeps it in place. So if we want to swap a barrel, we just need to leave our magazine in there, and then we can go just put our barrel back in, and you know, you fish it around, you'll hear it hit that barrel nut, that metal on metal, and then you start threading it in, and I can tell it's caught the threads now, so I just continue to screw it in. But if it's a case where your barrel nut and shims have fallen out of it, your replica might have something like this in there, you know, just a split washer made out of a steel wire. I can't remember what I put in there, if I did, or it could be, you know, a couple of these shims. Most likely has something. Sometimes bumblebees don't. But anyway, those. Now here's where it comes in handy to have our solenoid cover off. And if your solenoid cover gets to this point and doesn't really want to come off, you can always just unscrew your rear sight to raise it up a little bit. Yep. And there's a little spring under there that can be a pain in the butt. But a lot of times you can just work it loose without doing that. But we've got our barrel nut, you see? And that fits on there like so. And then normally, like on your replica, it would have any shims between it and the frame. You see this bottom part of the barrel nut, how it's got like, it's kind of fluted on both sides. That fits in a groove like so in here. So if you don't have your magazine in there and it's really stuck, you can, the magazine prevents it from twisting out of that groove. So what you want to do is get your shim, whatever it is, and I like to use something, you know, non-magnetic, because down here there's a hole in the frame that the barrel has to pass through, and you want to get those shims over that hole. You might not have this much room to work with. It just depends on how long your solenoid wires are. But I've got my shims over that hole now, and I need to get my barrel nut behind those shims with the fluted part, the flat spot facing up, fluted part down, and you get it in that groove right there. Now it's very likely that you're going to have to do this in that much space. So, you know, something magnetic to get those shims over that hole could be helpful. It could be like a, you know, you might use a bamboo skewer or something, but then your nut goes in right behind it, flat spot up with the hook down and the fluted part down. Then you take it like this with your right hand and you press on it. You keep that from moving. And like I say again, it's more likely you're going to have to reach in here like this. But you just want to hold that down like so. And now you can start fishing your barrel in. If it has one of the collars on, be sure your collar's screwed up this way. Put it in there straight. And it can be challenging to get it in all those holes because you got a hole here, and a hole here. You got to get it through all of them. But then you feel it. You'll feel it when you hit your barrel nut. Hold that barrel nut down in the groove. And I've caught the threads. So now that I've caught the threads, I just want to screw this in nearly all the way. Nearly all the way. Okay, so that's nearly all the way. Now I want to put my magazine in because I'm going to tighten this down. When that's loose, you just have to sometimes wiggle the magazine around with the barrel and make sure it's all clipped in there. And you also can check your alignment here. If your latch plate has slipped, you can just press on the back of here and see, yep, I'm hitting that pretty well dead center. So I'm good to go there. You'd want to do that after you tighten it up because that'll change it. Now our barrel's tight. We get a rag. Where did my rag go? And if you have the collar on there, that's going to be your way to tighten it down. If that's how your barrel tightens down, now's the time that you would tighten it down. You just screw it down and snug up the two halves of the gun. But you want to remember to put your solenoid cover on before you do that. And you see how that works? It goes forward and clips down. Sometimes these wires, these solenoid wires, will interfere over here. So just make sure it's all the way down before you tighten that nut. If you don't have that nut, if it's a type of barrel like this one that tightens from here, you put your shroud pieces on. Don't forget your bushing if you have a bushing, if it has a bushing with it. I like this design better because it pushes on here. It doesn't push so hard on that center part. And then that is back together. And I'll snug up my stock. And that's how you do that.